G'day there guys, it's your Aussie hubby Marky, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. I do hope you enjoyed today's bloody good stories, and with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, let's get right into it. Cheers. Am I overreacting? My partner yells at me in front of our baby, and I've had enough. Long text exchange ahead. OP starts with, "You upset the baby. She made a sad noise as we walked away. Please control your emotions. I understand you get upset and frustrated, but that is not, and there never is, a reason to yell at me and call me a bitch. You are teaching her with every outburst and every time you scream at me that you are an unsafe person and she cannot have conflict with you or ever disagree with you. If you're willing to call the mother of your child and your own mother names, what is stopping you from calling your daughter names as well? She needs to feel safe expressing her emotions with you, and as it stands, that isn't going to happen. She will hide things and try to appear to feel fine. Please consider this and work on controlling your feelings." He says, "I didn't call you a bitch." OP says, "You referred to me as a bitch. I don't care if you want to manipulate the technicality and say that what you actually said is, you're acting like a bitch. It's never warranted, period. Also, that wasn't the point of what I said." He says, "I said, when you don't give me a response showing me that you understand, it seems like you're trying to be that way, and you know it. You don't know you're trying to upset me by not responding, or don't, and that's extra frustrating." OP replies, "I'm not arguing with you. I said what I needed to say, please consider it." He says, "You think you can just completely ignore me, and I should act however you want?" "No." OP says, "I'm sorry I frustrated you. I wasn't trying to have that whole conversation with you. I just needed to know what to tell my dad. One of two options. I didn't appreciate you acting like unless I acted like a subordinate and gave you some version of yes, sir, would satisfy you. I'm not trying to invalidate what you said. I just wasn't trying to get into that, especially after telling you that I'm going to put the baby to bed." In response to, "You think you can just completely ignore me and I should act however you want?" OP says, "No, I do not think that. I think that I'm well within my right to ignore you when you treat me like I'm less than you and call me names." He replies, "When it comes to being on the same page, I at least expect you to agree with me when I'm saying what I'm saying, because if you are so confident and do something stupid like give my card number away to anyone, I would trust you zero. I didn't call you a name at all. You are the one being manipulative. If I use a word you don't like, all of a sudden nothing you did matters. Fuck that." OP says, "I'm allowed to disagree with you, or even just think about what you are saying. I am not obligated to immediately agree with you. That's what a servant does. I am not that." He says, "I don't agree with you at all." OP says, "You're saying you didn't call me a bitch?" He says, "It's not your money or card, and no, I didn't. Quit acting like that's how the entire conversation went and why you ignored me." OP replies, "How would I give your card number if I don't know it? Why would I even have to ask you?" He says, "That's not the point at all. All you had to do was say, 'Okay, I won't give your card number to anyone ever.' You don't need to be a servant to do that." OP says, in response to "it's not your money or card," right, because in your view there is nothing that's ours, it is all yours. I'm just lucky that I even get to be here at all. That doesn't make me feel equal or valued." He says, "Stop with that. You're not the one responsible for working for it, so you need to realize I'm going to be much more protective over it." OP says, "Being protective is fine. Saying I have no ownership in that, even though you're able to work because I take care of the baby full time, isn't right. If we were separated, you wouldn't be able to work the way you do if you had to watch her, or you'd have to hire help. We are a team, and we have shared resources, including the income that you make. Claiming it as only yours is really dismissive and minimizing of the role that I play in our family as your partner." He says, "You're making this into something it's not." OP replies, "I'm sorry I didn't say that I wouldn't give your card number to anyone. Like I said, I don't even know it, and I wasn't planning on doing that. I was simply asking so that my dad could wire us money, and if the Western Union makes you feel more comfortable, I'm okay with that. I do not care. It makes no difference to me. I wasn't trying to argue or be dismissive or disrespectful, so I'm sorry I did things that came across that way. In response to "you're making this into something it's not," OP says, "Not true. These are harmful views and mindsets that you have, which I am pointing out. You've shown it by your actions and words." He replies, "The way you react disobediently, showing our daughter that it's okay to bicker with me, is worse in my opinion." OP says, "You expect me to be obedient? You don't see how that language is harmful and shows how you view me as less than you, as a subordinate?" He says, "You want to make it all about I want a slave, but that's entirely your projection of a normal family hierarchy. You're the one making it sound dystopian, authoritarian, and oppressive. That is entirely in your head because you want to have more control over the choices that I make. That results in us arguing and me getting mad because you want to make this entirely one side about me having all the problems. And half my argument is just trying to get you to acknowledge one thing." OP replies, "I am allowed to disagree with you, and to be clear, in this instance, I was not disagreeing with you. I just wasn't trying to have an argumentative conversation. Leadership isn't do what I say blindly. It's being comfortable enough to take feedback and to make the people that you are leading feel comfortable with speaking freely. Yes, there are times when what you say is what goes. That doesn't mean that I don't get to have input. Yes, you have ultimate decision-making power as our leader. Again, that doesn't mean that I cannot disagree." He says, "When have I ever asked you to do anything blindly? I've always explained, or am over-explaining, why I want something a certain way, and most of the time you refuse to listen and instead focus on my reaction as the problem and not the thing that I'm reacting to ever." OP replies, "I'm sorry that's been your experience. My experience has been that you're uncompromising and very demanding with how you want me to be, behave, and feel. You keep saying that I'm trying to control you or manipulate you, but it seems to be that's what you are doing and projecting onto me. I've not once gotten angry with you about you messing up, yet you constantly reprimand me for mistakes that I've made and even weaponized them against me later down the road. You've done so many stupid things. Gotten the car towed is one example, locked the keys in the car, locked the keys in your Prius and then had to break the window, lost money trading, other dumb stuff. I have not once gotten angry with you, even in the moments when it happens, or even expressed being upset with you, because I accept the mistake in the moment and want to move on. I'm not trying to make you feel like shit, yet you go out of your way to make me feel like shit for my mistakes. It's a heavy burden, and it makes me feel unsafe because I never know when you're going to weaponize something against me. You trying to weaponize past mistakes is controlling and manipulative." And he says, "That's why you have a recording of me yelling 'leave me alone' for later." OP asks, "Leaving me alone? What?" He says, "Leave. Surely not going to be weaponized against me and cut out the part where you're standing over me and I'm saying 'leave me alone'?" OP replies, "Have you stopped to wonder why I would need to record someone screaming from the top of their lungs at me while I'm holding an infant? You think that's acceptable behavior? I know how much you love to argue, so I'm going to end the conversation here. Please go yell at the wall if you feel the urge, so that you're not traumatizing your child by screaming at her mother." He replies, "You take absolutely no responsibility after apologizing too. It comes off incredibly insincere." OP replies, "I've taken accountability. Doesn't seem that you have or want to. Just because I'm still upset because you failed to acknowledge anything I said, while I have acknowledged what you're expressed to be upset about multiple times, doesn't mean that my apology was insincere. But sure, continue to spin the bullshit so that you can keep arguing. Good night." And he says, "I know I have a temper, and you know that too. So intentionally trying to aggravate me to the point of me being pissed off and then pretending like I'm just a monster is ridiculous." OP replies, "If you think anyone is trying to aggravate you, then you need to lay off the weed. No one is doing that, especially not me. I've been called names and yelled at by you enough to last me a lifetime, yet somehow there's more. I don't want to be on the receiving end of it, ever. Your temper is not anyone else's responsibility but yours. No one is obligated to walk on eggshells and make themselves small to make room for your giant temper. Take that up with God if you can't manage it on your own." And he replies, "If you don't think the way that you act would make someone justifiably mad, then you're not being honest at all." Damn, what a piece of shit. He just never acknowledges anything she says. It's just move the goalpost. What's the next goalpost? I don't want to acknowledge that either. Fuck this guy. On to the post. For context, earlier in the day, I had texted my partner asking if he had a Visa debit card because my dad wanted to wire us some money. Something he's done for me plenty of times before, internationally, and he had an option on his bank app to either use a Visa debit wire transfer or Western Union. I don't have a Visa debit card, so I told him I'd ask my partner to see if he had one, so maybe he could send the money to him. Well, he comes home, and then when I was about to put the baby down for bed and had just come into the garage so he could say goodnight to him, she's 1 year old, he brings up the debit card thing, saying that my dad doesn't need his card number since that isn't how it works. I hadn't even asked him for his card number. I just asked if he had a Visa debit card. My partner says usually you only need the routing and account number for those things, and I said, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's what my dad needs, but if Western Union made him feel more comfortable, then I could just tell my dad to do that instead. I wasn't trying to have a full convo with him since I had just said I was going to put the baby to bed, but he kept pressing me, saying he needed to hear me tell him that I wasn't going to give his card info to anyone. I told him that my dad isn't going to steal from him if that's what he's worried about. He didn't say anything to that, but was getting increasingly upset. Again, I don't even have his card info, so I couldn't even give it if I wanted to. I guess I came off as dismissive and wasn't appeasing his concern enough, because he then yells at me as I walk off that he needs to hear me say that I'm not going to share his card info, and why don't I just say that instead of acting like a bitch to him? As I walk off, the baby makes this sad noise like she just had processed what happened, and I told her it's okay and continued to do her bedtime routine. But I just felt bad because this isn't the first time he's yelled at me. Far from it. So I wanted to address it directly, since usually I wouldn't even address it. The screenshot above is what ensued. I texted him from the other room because he was about to host band practice in the garage with his bandmates. In the comments, Jersey Girl says, "Not overreacting." I got to the word obedient and had to stop. Yeah, I got to him calling her disobedient, and every single equity feminist cell in my Gen X body screamed into the void. I've been with my husband for 32 years, and I really love him. We've been through some incredibly hard shit together, including being minutes from divorce for a couple years. If that man had ever chastised me for disobedience, he would be so single, women not to be born for 3 generations would be avoiding him. My partner would knock me the fuck out if I told her to be obedient, and she'd be right to do so. He's verbally and financially abusive and gaslighting the shit out of you. Take him to the cleaners and get out while you can. All I can think of is that poor baby growing up with a shot nervous system because a grown man will not regulate his emotions. He's an abusive fucktwat. Mr. Moody McGaslight needs to go pound sand, and you need to leave his lame ass. I'm so sick of posts with schmucks like my ex-husband. Look up YouTube videos on narcissistic abuse. If you can't leave for yourself, leave for your baby. You might avoid the years of therapy that my children are going to need. I have a teenager with a shot central nervous system because I thought it was noble to stand by my husband as he sought the help that he needed. God, I wish I left him in 2018 instead of 2022. Don't be me. Yes, OP, if you can't leave him for yourself, please leave him for your daughter. She deserves so much better than to be shackled and damaged by a man that is as fucked up as that guy is. You continuously brought up genuine and heartfelt points of contention with him that any normal and rational person would be like, I see you, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, I'm sorry for what I did, I will change. But instead, he takes entire paragraphs, picks one word, and he's like, I never said that. Okay, buddy, what about the rest? No, actually, you're the problem, not me. I know I punched you in the face, but don't you think I wouldn't have punched you in the face if you hadn't fought back when I was screaming in your face? This is actually your fault that you would fight back and not just lie down like a good little carpet. Those are the kind of vibes that I'm getting from this guy. This will escalate. He will start physically abusing you if he's been yelling at you in front of your face with you holding your child. That is not healthy. This is not a good situation to be in. Please, for the love of God, leave him. And now, on to the update. Thank you all for your comments and encouragement. I'll admit that it's hard not to feel like you're going crazy when a person spins almost every issue on you and says it's your fault they reacted the way they did, even when it's 100% unacceptable behavior. I appreciated those who mentioned I came across as rational. My goal was to be as clear as I could be with him. I want to clarify a few things. 1. I do have my own debit card, but it's a MasterCard. My dad was asking for a Visa, so that's why I had asked my partner if he had a Visa debit card. I didn't know if he had one or if it was a MasterCard. Regardless, I just told my dad to use Western Union to avoid the entire headache of dealing with my partner inventing problems when there are none. Like I said, I do not have his card info and wasn't going to share it. I don't know why people thought that, since I clearly said I didn't have it. Hence why I even asked if he had a Visa card to begin with. 2. My dad was sending money as a gift for my daughter's first birthday, which just passed. He wasn't bailing us out or anything, or paying our bills, as some have suggested. When I said that my dad had done this many times before in my post, I meant that over the years, my dad has sent money via Western Union and we haven't had issues with it. I didn't mean that he's constantly sending us money. He's not that kind of dad, and honestly is only sending the birthday money as an afterthought, which is typical for him. I'm still grateful for it, but it's not something I was expecting from him by any means. 3. I texted him instead of talking face-to-face because his bandmates were about to come over, and I was also busy putting the baby down. I simply didn't want to wait to bring up the issue, and honestly, I wanted to text it so I had it in writing of what occurred. It also helps me to write things down so I can make sense of how I'm feeling and articulate it better because when we're face-to-face, it usually just ends in him screaming at me at the top of his lungs and isn't productive. He simply tries to dominate the conversation and intimidate me into agreement or an apology. 4. Some of you brought up that he came across as illiterate. That made me laugh. I promise he's not. He was just multitasking with his band practice. By the time I was texting him, I heard the band playing in the garage, so I'm not even sure how he managed it. But most of it is likely due to his attention not being fully on the conversation. I have it as a general rule of thumb not to argue with him over text, but as you can see, it'll simply go in circles, and I already do not like arguments. But again, for the above stated reasons, I decided to text him. Finally, I've also previously made a post about something my partner did in another subreddit and found all the comments to be identical. After a second round of people telling me he is abusive and this is dangerous, I decided I need to make a change. After considering everything y'all said, I had a meeting with our pastor this morning. Bro, don't go to the pastor for this. My pastor assumed that him saying I'm supposed to be obedient is not acceptable, and his general behavior of yelling, routinely smoking weed, and being paranoid, treating me as less than, are all not okay. He said that mine and my baby's safety is his #1 priority right now. We agreed that he's going to go work on finding us a place to stay for at least a month, and then try to speak with my partner. Maybe with a couple of other men that he trusts from our congregation, to get him to see how serious these problems are and hopefully lead him to repentance. He also made it clear that if my partner doesn't make a true change and repent after a month apart, then it's best that we separate and be co-parents instead, since staying in a harmful dynamic like this isn't what God wants for me or my baby. Again, Thank you for all of your input. It helped me to take the necessary steps to hopefully make a change and reconcile as a family, or to separate and create a much healthier environment for our baby. Overall, I'm glad I have a community who I can lean on who will support me. And as my pastor put it, we will not let you drown. In the comments, Historical Composer says, all I needed to see was his last text where he blames you for triggering his anger. AKA, look at what you made me do. Taking zero accountability for his actions. This guy is an abusive loser. I'm glad you're getting help. You don't want to raise a child in that environment. Exactly. I clocked that as well. The universal language of all abusers. Unfortunately, I heard that too. You made me angry. And no matter how much you try to reason with them, they won't admit that they have a problem. In one of his messages, he says he thinks that you are being disrespectful by being disobedient in front of the baby. That speaks volumes, and I don't understand why he would think that. Disobedient? Really? He has control issues. It does seem completely in line with the religious slant of their household, right? Like, OP lucked out that their pastor is more modern and at first glance seems dedicated to their safety. He is hoping that that does turn out to be true, but the idea of a hierarchy within the household doesn't come from nowhere, eh? Color me unconvinced. She needs someone who will put her and her baby's needs over trying to keep the marriage going. And now on to the final update. Hey y'all. I figured I at least owed you one last update on what's going on with me and my daughter since I started taking steps to separate from my abusive partner. I will keep all the details confidential in order to protect us, but you can rest assured that we're in a safe place and he does not know where we are. It turns out he's been lying about things I wasn't even privy to, but knowing this info has confirmed to me that this abusive pattern is not unique to our relationship and predates our relationship. Currently, our pastor is working on keeping him accountable, and if there's any hope for reformation for him, he will take the steps necessary and report to our pastor. If not, I will do whatever I must to keep me and my daughter safe. I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for your comments, insights, and recommendations. Per your advice, I've been reading the book Why Does He Do That? By Lundy, and it's been like reading a novel written about my life. It's made me feel saddened, angry, but most of all relieved, because I finally know that I am not insane and his mistreatment has never been my fault. You have all, quite possibly, saved mine and my daughter's lives. God bless every single one of you, and thank you again for your help. In the comments, Megabuck says, Girl, a pastor cannot help you, and a court won't or can't help you unless you start some paperwork. File a police report. You're entirely too focused on him. Focus on protecting your child. I came in to say this. I cannot stand how religious people think that pastors have some magical ability to be marriage counselors, psychologists, child-rearing experts, etc. They're not qualified to do anything but give you Bible sermons on Sundays. OP, this is your safety and the safety of your kid at risk. A pastor is not qualified to deal with that. Involve the police. Get a restraining order against your ex if needed, and do not even think of getting back together with him under any circumstances whatsoever. This is about your daughter's safety first and foremost. Your ex-partner can easily trick people into thinking that he's reformed, and then you are putting your daughter in danger by letting him back in your house again. Be a good mum, and never do that. I am an actual pastor, Episcopalian priest, and I would refuse the responsibility of holding this person accountable. Am I trained in pastoral counseling, and can I do a decent job of comforting a bereaved person and helping people with a daily round of life? Sure, but this? No way. Ma'am, you need to protect yourself and your child first and foremost. If your husband reforms on his own, that's great. He can work on himself at a nice, safe distance. But too often, I've seen abusive people claim a reformation as just a way to lure their loved ones back into reach so they can lock them down even tighter. What the hell is this with everyone leaving shit like this in the hands of a church pastor? I mean, the person might be well qualified to read Bible verses, but my cousin's boss is well qualified to mend bikes, and I'm not asking him to sort out my abusive spouse situation. OP, this isn't the answer. Religious counseling is not the same as actual counseling and therapy. You will have no progress, only repeated cycles. And that's where that one ends. OP probably isn't going to come back with another update on this one. I hope she does, but she didn't take the advice of don't talk to a pastor about this, start a paper trail, and genuinely protect yourself and your child for your child, not for yourself at this point, because it's obvious that you still want a relationship with him, even though everyone is yelling at you to go the proper official route and not give him an in. His behavior is not acceptable and it will never be acceptable, and you should not take him back under any circumstances, no matter what happens. He is a dangerous, disgusting person, OP. Please take the advice of the comments and don't talk to your pastor about this. You are wasting your time and putting yourself and your daughter at further risk of danger. Thank you for the story and thank you for the update. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.